Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find more episodes on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure to follow Spoiler Force Podcast on Facebook.
Hey, this is Martin Wong, and you're listening to Spoiler Force Podcast.
Alright, so this is episode 48 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. Now, tonight, it's a bit awkward with the timing because if you're listening to this episode, it's actually the same night or the same weekend as I released episodes 44 and 45. The guest I have on tonight is someone I was not expecting to get, and it's not a bad thing. It's just it really caught me off guard, and I'm very shocked and I'm very happy at the same time to have this guest on the podcast. If you're familiar with the cosplay genre or career or just overall art, the person I have here has had a lot of experience in taking photos of cosplayers, and not just cosplayers, but just overall landscapes and portraits. And he's also worked with many other kind of content creators. So let me just introduce my guest here, Martin Wong. Thank you so much for making time to be on Spoiler Force Podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm really enjoying this podcast idea, so I'm doing more and more of it.
Again, as we were speaking before we started recording, I feel very appreciative for this opportunity with you because, again, literally, you just emailed me this morning and was like, "Can you podcast today?" I was like, okay, I guess after a certain amount of time, and then we got it to work though. It's I don't know what time it is like in California right now. You guys are around like what?
It is only 9 p.m., so it's not too bad. But
Okay.
because, I go to so many events, it's insane to, schedule things, So I'm like, whenever I have a chance, I can do it. Let's see if we can do it now. Like for the last 3 weekends, I have been nonstop traveling. I was at Kasukan, and I went to DreamHack Anaheim, and I just came back from PAX East, and they're all different cities from across the country. So I'm like, well, while you still have me here, let's do it.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I wanted to bring that up too eventually later as we go on with this podcast about your travels, because I understand that as a photographer and a lot of requests and stuff like that too. And I'm pretty sure you have multiple clients just all over the states and even internationally. That does require you to do multiple travels and a lot of like hotel bookings and a lot of scheduling. And I understand how hectic that can get sometimes.
Yeah, like it's funny because I just saw a friend posted about this, and it became my how I feel right now too. And it's like, what do freelancers do on their days off? And the answer is we work. We just do more work. So yeah, like even when on my days off, I do be figuring out, oh wait, I have. It feels weird if you actually have too much free time. You're like, this doesn't feel right. Something is something suspicious here. Like I was supposed to be where right now. March, I was supposed to go to Hong Kong soon, but because of the whole, coronavirus situation going on, I'm gonna hold back on that and maybe move to some other date. It's originally actually where I was born and raised, but I don't have a rush to go there. It's more like expect to visit family, but since the whole virus going on, I'm just gonna take it easy right now. So now I should have some free time for a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's always better to be safe too. I know with this I guess you could say epidemic going on, it is pretty tough, especially with travel. So I don't know how did you feel about that? Like with all of that going around too.
Luckily, so first of all, I feel like it is being blown out of proportion. A lot of events just announced that they're canceled, and I'm sure by the time this podcast comes out, maybe more events gonna be canceled. I don't think it's because they worry how crazy it is. I think it's that they do not want to be the first events that be on the news and say, oh, this event have 10 people got coronavirus, and it kind of hurt their name. So they just decided to pull back just to be safe. I know they affect more for younger kids or older people. Since I am not in those categories, I feel pretty good, especially since I travel so much. I actually don't get sick. I think I haven't gotten sick in the last few years. So I'm feeling pretty safe about it.
That's pretty awesome, to be able to travel like that and not get sick. Because usually people would get sick during like a lot of travels or just flights in general. And
Yeah. Especially long flights with lack of sleep and a lot of drinking. Those those compound, and it will really hurt your immune system.
You don't do any of that, do you? As you travel, like any pills or anything like that to sleep?
No, I don't need to. I'm so good at just once I'm on the plane, I put on a complete blackout eye mask. I have it down to like how to go to sleep on the plane because I usually before my flights I'm still doing work and there's so much to catch up right before a trip or flight. So I'm like, oh shit, what I have to do. So once I'm on the plane, I don't watch movie, I don't do anything. I just go straight to sleep.
Since you're freelancing, is this pretty much out of your own pocket, or I guess whoever's hiring you, do they pay for your flights too?
It really depends on each gig. Some of them say, oh yeah, we need to fly you out for this, get you in the hotel and do all this. I'm like, great. But for some other events, would be like, okay, pay you this lump sum and you have to figure it out. So then I have to figure out how to get there and then, or like where to stay. It really depends on each situation.
Now, is that just through like the venue or the convention that's going on? Do they hire you, or is it through like, I guess, for example, like if there was a certain client like or a cosplayer that hires you, is that how it works?
So for company and like individual are very different. So for cosplayer wise, sometimes cosplayer will fly me out and also book me a hotel as well, or sometimes we stay in the same hotel because most of the people I work with are pretty good friends as well. So let's say Jessica, sometimes she'll fly me out and then we'll shoot at her place, or she'll fly me out to Hawaii and then or at an event. Sometimes we could also work together for an event. Sometimes she'll suggest me to an event as well, saying, "Hey, how about we also bring on Martin Wong as a guest, so then add more values to the conventions." At the same time, we can get to shoot at this as well.
That's a great way to network then. I never thought of it that way. Now, I did take a look at some of your older, I guess, material and stuff like that. I did see that you started off doing Photoshop first. Is that how you got into the whole photography or camera work and stuff like that too?
Yeah. I started photoshopping like 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. And then as I grew older, I was like, well, I would love to also use my own photos to edit instead of just, using photos I found. Well, actually, that was before the internet. So just, stock photos that I buy and stuff like that. You should have to buy a CD for the stock photos. So, or scan photos, that I take. Then it's like, you know what? Why don't I just do more photo taking so I can use that in corporate as well? And that was about like 15 years ago. And then digital age also come along after that. So it became easier and easier. So now it's just, I do photography, taking picture part, and also the Photoshop part, the retouching.
I feel so old when you mention like CDs and scanners and digital age.
I used to save my Photoshop file in a floppy disk, multiple file in one floppy disk. That's how small the files used to be.
Yes, yeah. And
now I can't even fit one at all. There's no way.
It's funny, like at the time floppy disks used to seem like they used to hold so much data. Now you have like a little micro USB or something like that could hold even like triple the amount of that, or 100 times more than the floppy disk, really.
Floppy disk was the old day USB. It was really cool, you literally like push it in and take it, like move it around. And I remember like back then, not even that far back, but maybe the first Mission Impossible, you see them like putting like a memory card into a computer, and they're pretty big already, but they put it in and they get all the information, they hack it. It's like, I got it. And it's like a little card, but that card is still much bigger than the micro SD card that we have these days that anyone can buy at any store, any Best Buy.
Do you also mess with videography too, or do you only take pictures?
No, I do videography too, but not as much. I used to actually do a lot of weddings, both photos and videos. But I don't do cosplay video because I have a lot of great friends already doing amazing work. And I'm like, man, I'm just gonna watch from my side because that will be so much work to edit. It's more like editing video is a very tedious thing for me to do, and that's it. That's all it is to it.
Yeah, because I got some friends who again that was on the previous podcast I was on. They do like also videography and stuff like that. They went to school for it. So did you go to school for any of this stuff, or you learned all of this on your own?
No, I did not go to school for any of this. If anything,
really?
I was.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
no, not photography, not editing, none of it. I just kind of self-taught, and then of course, I used to buy a lot of books. Well, actually, no. Let me correct that. I used to be a kid, younger at least, and I could not afford to buy Photoshop books. So I would go to bookstore to look at the books and then, like, read all the description and all the, try to memorize the instruction. Sometimes I'll secretly bring a notepad to jot down a few notes just to see what to do, and then go home and practice those Photoshop techniques. That was before the YouTube days.
Yeah, that's
before I can also afford buying books.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
And
even before
Photoshop is such a professional software back then too. Now it's
Yeah.
more common, but back then it's kind of specific. So therefore, like most of the time, I would go to bookstore to find the latest book to learn the latest technique. And even though library's gonna be at least like a few years like even behind that, and that's gonna be like non-existent. So I had to like find the latest one, and in order for me to do that, I would need to have to go to new bookstore, find a new book or magazine that teach you the latest trick.
To just go and take notes from books and stuff like that without YouTube tutorials. I don't even know how like kids today can do that kind of.
I know, right? I feel like such an old man saying like, "Well, kid did it like back in my days." It's so easy for them now, and I think it's good and bad too because like, back then it's a little bit more difficult, so therefore it's harder for anyone to just jump in and go, "Oh yeah, I can do this as well." But now that it is easier, then anyone can do it. But then the challenge is harder for you to stand out. It's gonna be a little bit trickier as well.
And do you feel like that's because you did it so early that kind of helped you too in the long run?
I think so. I mean, I got to play with Photoshop before, got a head start. So I mean, a lot of things is just about at the right place at the right time. So I got lucky that I am able to learn photo because my dad is actually a graphic designer. So I learned a lot from him. And is because through him I'm able to have access to computer and stuff like that to learn Photoshop. And even in social media, when it comes to social media, I was able to jump on social media before some of my friends can. So that's kind of how I started building my following. And I think that really helped. Really, I got lucky. That helped me build my current audience.
And as you mentioned that you didn't have to go to school for any of this stuff. Like I guess when it came to networking through your experiences and just building your clientele, did you kind of just go through all the conventions and stuff like that, or were you, I guess, sending out like emails and stuff like that? You kind of just did whatever you had to do to network with people.
The culture for, I mean, oh man, I would love to talk more about this too in my future podcast with other cosplayers as well to see how they feel. But from my perspective, from my experience, back then it's very different. Like you don't really need to network the way you do now because convention is such a small thing back then. And you go to conventions like once, twice, 3 times, at most 5 times a year because there's only so limited conventions around the country. And now there's like a convention every other week.
Yeah.
I mean, I average go to convention every other week, which is pretty intense. And that's around the country. But now it's like there's this convention every single city all the time. Every month. So back then it's different. There's literally all the major players, if you like to call it that way, are all at one place at one time. And there's no such thing as really professional photographer back then. There's a few of them, but I know I've decided let's bring cosplay photography to the next level, and then try to spend more time, money, and energy on it. So it's a lot easier to just go up to someone and say, "Hey, you want to go get some photos?" They're like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I'm not doing anything. It's either A, cosplay guest wasn't a thing, or B, it was social media wasn't that big, so they don't have such a big crowd that's bugging them. So it's actually very easy to ask someone to go do a photo shoot, even if they have a guest at a table. They'll be like, "Hey, can I borrow you for 15 minutes? Go somewhere different, get a few shots, and you'll be back at your table at no time." And 90% of the time, they would say yes because that's how it was.
Compare it to it now with like so many people trying to be photographers, and
and the culture is so different too. And you also have a lot of more dangerous people now because it's internet fame and everything. So a lot of cosplayers are become more and more cautious about it too.
Now, is that something that you worried about too, with I guess trying to build more clientele, like because of that kind of culture at conventions and stuff like that? Or were you already like you had like a built platform already before that all that stuff happened?
So I'm not worried for myself because I have an established relationship with lots of people and my work speak for myself. But I do worry there are some photographers who are not acting appropriately with cosplayer or models in general. So I would try my best to call them out whenever I have the chance.
Okay.
If there's provided evidence, I would always try my best to call them out and also hold them accountable because they are. And I actually working on a YouTube video right now too. That should be coming out sometime this month. It's my open letter to photographers. How to be a proper photographer and don't be a creeper. Is because it will hurt us indirectly and directly if someone is acting in a inappropriate manner. And that it's the same as any kind of group mentality too. Because let's say people that like to represent themselves as left wings or express themselves any sort of group or anything at all in general. If they act in a certain way, but you don't publicly, denounce them for an action that you don't agree with, then people will just associate you with that kind of actions, and that's not something you want to stand for.
Right, and that's something that'll really hurt your career in the long run. And once that kind of
Correct.
thing is
It will hurt
established,
everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
And because like the thing is, I've seen kind of, I guess, something like this sort of happened. Like not so much where it was, I guess, physically bad, but I went to Anime Expo in 2015, and that's a huge convention for a lot of photographers too. And it's just wild to see like how everyone kind of just rushes like a certain model or a certain cosplayer that's there, and it's not like where it's. I understand everyone's trying to get the perfect shot, and trying to get a
Mhm.
good, I guess it's something good for social media. But man, it's just like if to go and overcrowd someone like that, I feel like that's a bit much. Um,
Yeah.
so I
Mhm.
guess through your experiences too, have you had encounters like that where you were trying to work with someone and then like obviously there's been like those YouTube memes or video memes where like people make fun of certain photographers that go and just like, oh hey, let me take a selfie or a quick picture, bam bam, and just walk out and like completely ruin your shot too. So I guess have you had anything like that happen to you?
I mean, that happens all the time. You have photographers who are either rude or you have photographers who are inexperienced. And it's possible that I was one of them too. I don't know. It's been so long that I've been taking photos. So I never really blame them for it, because, I could have been in that position. But luckily, both my experience and the experience of the cosplayer, they're very easily to get back into shooting mode. The only thing that kind of annoys me sometimes is over shoulder photographers. Those are people who are shooting over your shoulder, try to get the same shot that you're doing. I have no problem, sharing uh a cosplayer, time or whatever with a photographer. But if you're getting the exact same shots as me, then you kind of stealing away my original idea, my creativity there. So it's just not fun that way. So that is something I just don't like. Other than that, I'm pretty okay with photography. A lot of them are also fans too. Some of them are not photographers. They come in, they're like, "Hey, can I get a photo of the cosplayer?" It's faster if I just say, "Yeah, yeah, go ahead, take a shot," so then they can leave instead of like, "Oh no, because we're doing a shoot." Because sometimes we're like, "Oh, okay, then when are you free?" I can come in, and then it'd be a long conversation, and it was just take longer time. It's just easier to say, "Yeah, go ahead, take a selfie with your cell phone." Get out here, we're done. I mean, not I'm not gonna say that, but that's the idea though.
The way how you put it, you seem a lot more nicer about it. I've had some run-ins with certain photographers that were kind of douchey too. That I didn't know. It's funny because like a lot again, as I say, there's so many of them taking photos at once, so sometimes you don't recognize that they are in the middle of a shoot. So I had an
Mhm.
experience where I met I forgot what her name is. I believe it was Missy Uryu or someone, and I
Ah, Michelle.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I took a photo with her or a selfie with her, not knowing that mid photo there she was actually in a shoot. I felt so bad afterwards, but the photographer was kind of, he was clearly upset, but I felt really bad for doing that. um,
Yeah. No, like I said, some people might not know, so I don't really blame them for that. So yeah.
Now, I guess when it comes to just taking photos, now, do you also have like some sort of theme that you kind of select or already have in mind, or do you kind of just I guess freestyle your shots?
So a lot of my photography style is actually from very much portrait style type of photography, and that's kind of where I started my cosplay style, but then kind of graduated into doing actually a lot of portrait these days. But um, I think this is where experience come in because I have talked to different friends about this too. To me, photography seemed to be extremely easy, but that is because apparently, again, I don't notice this. It's a gradual years and years of photography experience. That is where all this experience pack in, and also how visualizing things. I'm not sure you saw this post on Twitter recently. It was saying, "Oh, if I say the word apple and tell you to imagine apple, how would you see it?" Some people will see like, oh, a drawing of an apple. Some people will see like a drawing, a black and white. Some people it's a color apple. For me and some others is that we see like a full apple, and I can imagine it in my hand right now, right in front of me, and I can move left and right to see how it changed too. And that's kind of how I see my photos when I take my shots. Before I take my photos, and that's the difference between a photo taker and a photographer. A photographer see the shot before they take it, and it's very much like they kind of know what they're going for and see where they see it, and they could of course gradually improve from that. A photo taker nowadays with digital camera, they take the photo, then they see it on the screen to see what it looks like.
That kind of reminds me of like how directors kind of shoot the scenes on like short films or stuff like that. Because I have on a previous episode of my podcast, I had a director friend of mine that was telling me that kind of, I guess, similar style of how he wants to get a certain scene done. It kind of described it how you were just saying, like how they envision the shot first before they even do it. So I can see some similarities in that, like where you know what you want already, and then to get that exact shot, that feeling must be really good too, to know that that's what you wanted, and you kind of just go with that. Now,
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a great feeling to able to try to create something that you have imagined in your head, like going closer and closer to it.
now, have you had some shots that were like right on the spot within like one take at all? Have you had that? I'm pretty sure you've had that before, but was there something recent that you had that happen?
I think it's sometimes I'm more excited when it's surprising. Like when I take a shot and then it's like, wow, this actually turned out better than what I imagined that I wanted to do. Like last year I took a shot at CosplayCon with Jenna Maori as her red Oscar cosplay from Evangelion. And this year I ran to Peachy Jars. Um, and she was in a what's her character name? It's a blue hair one, in a white suit, also from Evangelion.
Oh,
Ray, sorry. There you
okay.
go. Yeah, and then I have a similar idea, and then it was easy because I took it. I said, "Wow, it just came out the way I already wanted it." It's a similar spot, with like glass panel kind of stuff, and I already saw the shot before I took it, and when I took it, it's like, "Wow, it turns out great." And that photo shoot took me less than 2 minutes. If I really wanted to, I can bust out 5 different shots, to edit 5 different photos. But even if I don't, I have 5 different look and different pose that I already have. So this is where experience comes in a lot. Like I really go for the shot that I want, and then after I do, I just slowly narrow down to maybe other shot that I need. But because convention is such a hectic schedule, I usually only produce one photo per shoot that I do. But I realized most of my shoots from CostumeCon, this past CostumeCon, average, I would say it takes me 5 minutes for a shoot. In fact, most of the shoot I look into, I think it only took me less than 2 minutes.
Oh wow. So you
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
was surprised too.
yeah.
Like I didn't know how fast I move until my friends one time helped me record a BTS and say, "Wow, you got a shot in a very short period of time. You move very fast. Like you know what shot you're getting." I'm like, "I do." Like I don't realize it because I've been doing it. But then now I realize, oh yeah, that's quite fast actually. I guess.
I guess on that topic with posing and stuff like that, too, knowing your shot. I recently saw Stella's video of like you and Lily Peachy. You guys were doing the creating the costume last week, and how did you come up with the rock paper scissors idea? I never noticed like that was a really creative thing to do with your models, like to have them pose like that. So how did you come up with that?
So first of all, doing a V is already very an Asian signature kind of pose, the Caesar, but like we call it V because of victory, and that is for both in Chinese or Japanese, also Asian culture adopt that. But then I see a lot of anime or like a lot of idol star that do a lot of pose with their like fist on their hand or sometimes open their hand. I'm like, wait a second, I'm seeing a pattern here. Those are just rock paper scissors, and I realized like I could just mix and match them, and it worked perfectly for any cute type of cosplay. So I like, good, and then that's become something very easy to teach. I actually have my own cosplay photography workshop too, and that is something I like. Oh, that could be in my class, and next thing you know, that's something I adopted and teach people.
And that's pretty much teaching people how to like take pictures or poses and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I have. So originally I have 2 class, Series 1 and Series 2. Series 1 is a more of a intro class for someone really haven't gotten into cosplay. Let's jump right into it to see what you can learn very quickly. Series 2 is about how to hone your craft a little bit further down. But I might combine both of them into one stronger class, either as a video later, or I might just do monthly class again if that's something that people would enjoy. Think that's something people would be interested in?
I don't know. I think it really would depend on who would be interested in that. But now, do you do that? Like, is it? I guess is it like it's an online course then? I guess that's how you're doing it.
Yeah. So I did it before. It's kind of like it's a video chat, with 20 other people, max.
Oh wow.
So 'cause I don't want to crowd too many. It's not too big. It's not too small. I think it's good enough where People can take notes, ask question, while go through like a little lecture kind of thing. And so far, I think people really enjoyed it. And then afterward, it's kind of like they can also join a special channel on my Discord because they can talk about things that they have learned, and kind of talk among themselves as well if they need it.
Yeah, and I noticed that on your Discord page too, like a lot of people asking for tips, not just from you, but like a lot of other.
Oh, I love my Discord.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's a great
community there.
community. It's better than forum. Back in the days, of course, we used to forum on the internet, but now it's more like, oh, we can all talk together in like a group chat that continues going. And the great thing about my Discord that I'm really happy about is that I have photographers and cosplayer and other people from all around the world. It's not just America. Especially there are some in Netherlands who are very active, and I love them for it.
I understand that you've traveled pretty much around the world. Where exactly would you say you found one of your best shots at? That's not in the United States.
I think there's some that I shot in Switzerland that was pretty fun. Uh, where else? I still want to go to Iceland. That's the one I haven't been to yet. I feel like a lot of European countries are great places to shoot cosplay because of how much historical buildings they have. I recently just went to which city it was? Not Prague. Prague was a few years ago, but it was some other European country that I feel like, man, this would be great for so many cosplay things that's very recent as well, like Fire Emblem, because there are lots of them take place in those kind of environments. So I would love to go back to Europe just to do more cosplay photos.
Do you also like play with lighting and stuff like that too, trying to get that good shot too? Now, how does that really work when you're, I guess, when you're outside with a scene like that? Do you kind of have a lot of different equipment with you too, trying to get a good shot from that?
So here's the funny part. Just give you a background. Back when I first started shooting cosplay, I want to develop my own style. So in order to do that, and that was back then when most people were still using a point and shoot camera, so it's very different. I brought my own DSLR, and then I got lighting equipment. And lighting equipment was really expensive back then because there was no a lot of third party brand. You have to use the official brand or whatever company you're using. So let's say I'm using Nikon, I most likely have to buy Nikon flash because if you use any other brand, it most likely will not work well together. Or like you need to do a lot of trickery just to get it to work as a normal flash. But I also want to create a style that's come with colors and lighting. So I bought at least 2 light and 3 transceiver, and they're expensive. I always like a 3 lighting system. But because of limited amount at first I only have 2. But each flash was like $600, and then each transceiver to let it receive the information tell the flash to go off is $200. So 2 flash would be about 1,200 plus 3 of those transceiver, which are $600. So I'm almost about $2,000 just for setting up my light. But I used to bring that to conventions just to get those shots, and I think it really helped. Oh, of course, on top of that, I got light stand, softbox, umbrellas. So just easily $2,000 every single time worth of equipment, not counting my camera or lenses. Just lighting alone is $2,000 right there. But it's just to develop shots, a style, and I think it's worth it because I think I've established a style that I really like, and I kind of like perfected it the way that I want it to be. And now, however, ironically enough, I went backward since I kind of have a better experience with lighting. I can try to simulate that lighting style with ambient light and also with editing. Of course, definitely it would never be as good as it would be if I'm actually use lighting because I'm able to control with my artificial light. But because I don't want to carry as much stuff and I want to get more shots or be more mobile, I have turned to this hybrid where it's like using using ambient light, but also sometimes very small LED light just to achieve the same look or if not a better look that I wanted. And convenience is kind of more important now than before. Again, because like cosplay is such a big scene nowadays. Back then, you literally can just find a cosplayer that you really want to work with, ask them to do a photo shoot, put them aside for 15 minutes. That's pretty easy. That's pretty common because other than that, they're just walking around not doing much. But now because cosplay is such a popular thing, and big cosplayer also very popular, they will never have free time to spend like half an hour to an hour shooting with you. So it's unless you have a spot all set up and then they just so happen to be in the area and you put them aside and tell them to go there and then they can get it all done in like less than half an hour. Unless that's the case, it's kind of difficult to shoot the way I wanted to shoot, like I did back in the day.
I understand from where that's coming from too, because you want to make sure you're not wasting too much time for yourself or for the model too. And it's, again, like you said, convenience makes a huge difference. And I think that's where you find a good middle ground for yourself too, especially with the artwork that you're currently doing.
You need to learn how to evolve with it, and
Right.
the industry has changed a lot in the last 10 years, and I feel like people who do not adapt and evolve with the industry kind of fall behind.
Now, is that something that you're consistently like working on too, like trying to be up to date with the changes of
Definitely.
the scene? Okay. Have you thought about cosplaying yourself? I know that you're working with all these cosplayers. Have you thought about doing some of that on your own?
So sometimes I wear their cosplay, but I never do it. Actually, I kind of have, but not exactly. I feel like cosplay is because there's so much amazing cosplay I've seen out there, and I feel like I would let myself down if I try to cosplay. So I never really attempt to go for one cosplay. But maybe someday, maybe there will be a chance arise, and maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome to see.
But then who's gonna take the photos then?
Have you thought about using drones at all for your pictures?
Yeah, so I thought about it, but there's some limitation. Drones, first of all, doesn't work that well in indoors. Some places don't let you do that, both indoors and outdoor. There's a way to go around that. I have recently gotten a 360 camera, and it can produce very amazing shots that very look like drone shots, especially because with the software, you can do tracking, and you can just track the person as if you're using a drone to go around them. And because it's 360, it's very different. It's for traditional photography, videography. You aim and you shoot, literally point and shoot. But with a 360 camera, it's more shoot than point because you can change where your point looking at after the fact.
Is this something that you've already worked on with the 360 shooting too? That this is something you're already
Yeah,
implementing? Okay.
yeah. So I'm slowly implementing that, and you can actually see that in my latest PAX video that I posted yesterday or the day before. The opening shot was using a 360, and that you can see like a time lapse, a hyper lapse of me walking through the show floor, and you can see how their shots move around a bit while I'm actually just walking straight forward. So it's pretty cool.
For the conventions that you've gone to, have you done panels for, I guess, photography and videography too, or
Yeah, definitely. There
okay?
are some convention that I definitely have done some panels before. Some with cosplayer. Like for example, I did one with Jessica in Hawaii before, but I also have done some, solo panel. I also do some with other photographers. Anything that can help educate others is, I'm pretty would like to get involved in.
From, I guess, from when you first were going to conventions till now, with seeing how much the scene has changed, you don't need to say which one or specifically. Have you had any experiences that were bad at certain conventions before? Like, have you ever been, like, I guess, lowballed there, or had they tried to screw you over or something like that?
I've heard many stories about conventions doing that. Luckily, none of them really have happened to me. But I feel like a lot of conventions still have to learn how to grow as a space. And in the beginning, being opening a convention is not easy. Anyone that's trying to start a convention and telling you it's a easy thing to do, they're lying. They don't know what they're talking about. It takes a few years to this is such a big many moving parts. And conventions, to me, a lot of it involve cosplay, but for a lot of people, it could be the dealer's hall, some could be the artist alley, some could be the panel, some could be just the venue itself, food logistic. There's guest relationship. There's so many things. The thing is that like maybe the head of the convention might be doing good, but there could be anyone involved in between all those different parts could do something wrong, and that could sour people's experience. But so far, I think for me, I'm okay. All the conventions I've been to, especially the one that I was guessing at, they've been treating me very well.
Now, do you go more to like anime conventions then, or like versus like comic cons?
I go to actually almost all kind of conventions, especially since I go to average this year a convention every other week. Then yeah, no, I go to all kind. I go to Comic Con. I actually did a panel last year at Comic Con with Deviant Arts, and I was really happy about that because that's kind of like my nerd card. I kind of like have that on my bucket list, check off. Being on a panel at Comic Con with my little plaque that's it's not my plaque, it's a piece of paper, the little folded paper that you have in front of you that say your name but has a Comic Con logo on it. I was like, yes, I've done it. Like finally, I am a real nerd.
Do you have any
Yeah.
other, I guess, things on your bucket list that you want to try to do then? I guess whether it's convention wise or just
Ooh,
photography wise at all?
I might want to start a real cosplay book again. Like I did one in 2013. That's kind of like, oh, here's some picture I took in 2012 or 2013. I forgot which year it was exactly. But I was like, no, I made a book. I think it was 2013, and I made a hardcover book. That's I sold it. Most of the item I sell is not really for profits. It's more like, oh, I'll make enough money to cover making this thing, and it's just cool to have a copy for myself, kind of thing. Kind of like, oh yeah, I did it. I made a thing. It's just cool for me. And so far, I think, but I do want to make maybe it's been over a decade that I've been shooting cosplay. I really want to make a book, not just to write down kind of experience that I've been through, but really want to show off the photos that the way I wanted to show off because looking at photos in a book and a print format, it's such a different experience than just looking online. It feels different. It feels more immersive, and you kind of have more of a connection with the photo. I feel like it.
For sure,
At least
because
to
you
me.
have the material in your hand and it's actually like
Mhm.
a physical copy versus just looking at a digital picture on a screen.
Yeah, I have a lot of cosplay book myself, and I can tell I'm sorry if I got quiet for a second, so I'm looking left and right in my room. But I have a few cosplay book myself, and I can see people really put time and effort into it, and it just feel good to just looking through it and have a little glimpse of how that world's like one of my favorite one would be Cosplay in America. He's a good friend too. And he made two books, I believe, and they're all pretty interesting. And it's not just about the photography. He has a lot of stories about how people doing cosplay, how they're getting ready, some of the journey they go through, that kind of stuff.
I'm pretty sure, like with all that kind of experiences too, and not just that, with the tons of photos that you guys carry as photographers, just the photo itself shows the experience that you guys gained over all these years.
I remember looking at my older photos, and then some of them I look at it and I was like, wow, I was pretty green. I was pretty new at this. Like but at certain points I think it was like 5 years ago. I was thinking about doing one thing I remade, so I don't think I'll do it again. But I made maybe I will. I don't know. I made a day calendar, so it's a new photo per day. So every single day is a new different cosplay photo. I didn't decide to do it, but until my friend was joking, he's like, "Well, you might have enough pictures for like a photos every single day." I'm like, like, wait a second. Maybe I do. then I go through my photos and I do counts. I'm like, oh my god, I already have like 500 photos. I could definitely do this. So I made a day calendar at one point. It's pretty cool. I still have it somewhere.
Yeah, like with the photos that you take over the years, and like you can really just tell a story with no words through them. And I think that's what a
Yeah,
lot of photographers try to do with their photos. And besides just taking a good shot, you're trying to explain or showcase your art through just imagery itself in its purest form. And um, it's something that a lot of people can't really capture depending on what kind of shot
mhm,
they take. And I think a lot of the things that you do, this is my personal opinion on your work. I think you find a great way to, whether it's just a portrait shot or whether it's just, you know, like a full body shot. You do find a good way to showcase like this is the art of the person that they're showing. You know, like especially again like Jessica Nigri is like one of the best creators out there, and the way how you showcase her skill set, like with when it comes to creating her own cosplay, I love how you do that too, and you kind of highlight her. I guess it's like her armor or whatever material that she uses. So I think that's a really great job that you do on your end to show that she's more than just the model. She's also a crafter and creator in that way too.
yeah, definitely. And Jess spends so much time in her cosplay, especially her armor one. It's just amazing how you can see her variety skill set just making costume. And whenever I'm at her house, I will actually watch her how she make her costume while edit photos. And I think it's a very fun interaction that we have because we kind of glance over each other's shoulders sometimes to see, oh, I see what you're doing. Interesting, interesting. That kind of thing.
Have you shown like the behind the scenes stuff too on your end? Like when you do hang out with them and take photos of their behind the scenes stuff that they allow you to upload, like do you also share that content too?
So a lot of time, I mean, of course, with the cosplay I work with, they definitely see the behind the scene because they're there and they see how the shot is take. And they see kind of see what I do. I usually don't show that to people as well because it kind of ruin the magic to it. To me, photography, retouching, cosplay has some magic to it. And even the one that you see online right now, lots of time is mostly me showing how to do color grading. So
Okay.
it's a little bit different. Yeah.
Besides just cosplayers, I know we've been on this topic pretty much the entire episode, but I did want to ask you
You
too.
didn't
When
ask
you,
me anything.
yeah, no, because I what I did want to do was just ask you as well, like with the models that you do work with. For example, if they do like not just regular cosplay, but when it comes to like more glamour or lewd or like even nude artwork,
Mhm.
how did you I guess come across that when it comes to like how do you still kind of just I guess the best way to say it is like how do you still try to be professional because again like with a lot of photographers in the past who've been called out for inappropriate
Mhm.
stuff like that, how do you kind of just maintain in being professional during that kind of photo shoot with the person that you're with?
I think it's because I've been taking photos for so long and coming from a background of my family who also into the art space. It's just that when I'm doing photography mode, it's really about how can I make the photo better. And I kind of forgot the person, whether they're wearing or not wearing. In fact, one of the best advice I ever got from a fellow photographer, who like his name's Alan. He's in Colorado now. He shot cosplay back in the days. Maybe just a few. He came in to do some fun cosplay stuff. But then, of course, he's a professional photographer. He got into doing modeling shoots and some back then shooting or a bunch of lingerie when I just barely started shooting cosplay. And I had the first time I had someone ask me saying, "Hey, I want to do a lingerie shoot. Is a gift for my boyfriend." It's like, okay, cool. And I was a little bit nervous because it's my first time. I wasn't sure how to conduct it. He gave me two great advice. One, use modeling oil, or if you don't have any, use body oil. It make the person's skin look better, shine nicer. And second one is the most important one, which is when you're shooting someone in lingerie or something sexy, don't worry too much about the person because they already look sexy. No, you don't have to over sexualize the photo. Just try to focus on making that photo, and that's what I've been doing. And after a while, you kind of just forget the person is either not wearing lots of clothes or not wearing any clothes at all. I did a shoot with Vera last week. We do shoot that are either imply or even completely nude for Patreons or for different tiers, whatever she needs. But I'm usually just so focused on the lighting and the angle to be like, is this photo's gonna look good? And it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, most people look pretty much the same naked. So to me, it's just like, cool. And the person who's naked. Let's focus on the photos and creating good art.
That's actually really great, and a great aspect on that too, because it's nothing. Not that there's nothing wrong with it, but
Oh,
like if I was
of
trying
course.
to take photos of a woman or a model that was nude in front of me, I wouldn't know how to take a great photo. I'd be so focused on trying to stay professional that a lot of the people that are actually into this art, like you guys do it so easily, right? You guys already know what you're doing. It's just like another day at work, kind of for you guys. So
Oh, definitely. And
yeah,
it's not just like I mean, you can apply this to almost anything, right? I think it's just because like, oh, you see a lot of things that's already it's just common thing, and it's just like experience. Nothing surprised you really much, and you kind of focus on like this is what needs to be done. That is the end goal. Let's get there first.
before we wrap things up here, Martin, I do want to thank you again for the
Mm.
opportunity and the time for jumping on this podcast. And I guess just overall, through your experiences and just overall career as a photographer and a Photoshop editor and just doing your artwork that you love, do you have any, I guess, tips or advice for any up and coming artists that want to pursue something similar to you, or I guess, or just anything in general? I guess any like tips or something like that to help people who want to pursue their passion projects or their dreams or anything like that.
So I guess my current advice for a lot of people who want to jump into photography is that you really need to start doing it. There's so many reasons not to, or excuses, not even reasons. There's so many excuses to not do it. Oh, I don't have the right camera. I don't have the right models. I don't have the place to shoot and all this stuff. But if you don't start, you'll never start. Everybody has to start somewhere. It's better to be done than perfect. Not than perfect, but than perfect. Like, do it. Get it done first. So get it out of the way. And then, take your time to, perfect your craft, to make it better. And that takes time, that takes some years. It took me over 15 years of photography and over 20 years of editing to get to where I am. And I'm still learning every day. And I feel like that is part of the progress. You have to really, put yourself out there, take some risk, give yourself some time, and practice, practice, practice.
So you heard it there, folks. Martin's advice on just pretty much how if you want to do what he does, practice and pursue it and just do it. So again, Martin, thank you so much for this opportunity. And yeah, this is so surreal to me. I've already said this to you before, but again, opportunities like this come very
I hope I answer your question. I hope I answer them well.
Oh no, you did great. Honestly, I loved how you were very honest too. So that's what I really look for in my guests, is just pretty much authenticity and just honest answers. And that's what
And I think that's why I started my recent podcast too. Like, this is the type of conversation I like to have people. It's just that I don't really like it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I'm already seen so many of that type of conversation interviewed at conventions where it's just like, oh, how are you? And what are you working on? Everything sounds so perfect, so nice, so happy. And there's kind of lacking the, genuine kind of feeling to it. So I like this kind of like deeper, longer conversation where we can really see how the person see a certain view, certain opinions, subject matter, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's what podcasting has done too. It's just like it's given people the platform to say things without trying to sound superficial or very scripted. So that's why I really enjoy doing podcasting. And for you as well, I hope you do great on your future episodes as well. I'll
Thank you.
definitely add the links to your podcast on the description of the episode that I have here. And subscribe to Martin's stuff. And and before we do officially wrap up, do you have any shout outs or plugs or anything that you want to say, or let fans know how to contact you too?
As always, you can find me on almost all social media platform, which is at Martin Wong Photo. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, on YouTube. And of course, as mentioned before, I have a Discord as well. But if anything, just go to martinwongphoto.com and you can find all the information there.
All right. Thank you again, Martin. And to everyone that's listening, thank you for listening to the Spoiler Force podcast. This is episode 48. Thank you and have a good day.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. For comments, questions, or criticism, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at instagram.com/rickyvang92.